Hey everybody, it's News from Heaven. Really glad to have you here. This is the show where we're trying to figure out life and our minds and how it all works together and how you navigate it. We do that by taking an annotated journey through Swedenborg's material. And today we're going to be talking about, hey, what does it mean to reign with Christ? Or to rule with God? There's this concept in many religious traditions that you can get this sort of power if you're cozying up to God, or certainly people act that way. What does it mean? And why does Jesus Christ say, yeah, you can reign with me? And what does that mean for the psychological states that we go through? How can you apply this to daily life in which you aren't a monarch in the spiritual realm? And is there this really a hierarchy? What's going on? Isn't that a little old school? Haven't we moved past people having power over? Is God really like that? Yeah, we're going to look at all that. What we'll do is go piece by piece. First of all, we're going to equip you with the tools to know what not to do in heaven. Also, just in case you want to know, how to reign with Christ. What does that phrase mean? How do you do it? And how is it a satisfying aspect of the life with the divine? Top positions in heaven? Can you climb the ladder in heaven? Or is it all just like it's everyone loves everything and there's no structure to it? It's a little of both. That's always how Swedenborg is. It's a little of both. If you're enjoying the show, please like and subscribe. That helps us keep going. Leave comments as we go. What's working for you? Questions you have? All that. We get to it. We care. And hopefully this whole show is about us caring about each other. Because what we're trying to do is, through exploring these concepts, equip us with the ability so that when we're living our life and everything bad starts pouring in, worry, fear, anxiety, everything trying to tell us you're nothing, your life is no good, or maybe the anxiety of like, how do I be better than people? Anything that disrupts the happiness and peace that the human race should have. How can what we learn here today be a bright, shining light that dispels the clouds and the misknowledge and leads us to be not just happier, but have a better impact on the people around us? That's the point of this show. So let's see if we can get in there. What you need to do is download, if you want to follow along, this is True Christianity Volume 2. And you scroll all the way down to number 736, bracket 3. And I'm going to tell you that we're coming in the middle of a strange story. This is a story, Swedenborg says, that he saw in the afterlife where a group of people who thought that what heaven consisted in was having power, that ruling in a very literal sense was the greatest joy in life, and that's what it's all about. And rather than heaven saying, no, that's wrong, how dare you even think that, they said, okay, do you want to try it for a while to see what it's like? So we jump into this story where this group of people had been given these thrones and these scepters, and yeah, you can rule over the angels, whatever you want to do. How does it feel? And we're a couple hours into it, and these people are starting to realize how ridiculous that is. The idea that heavenly happiness can come from being dominant over anyone. And so we start with kind of a bit of a rebuke, but always with love behind it, from the angels. After 3 hours, heaven opened above their heads. They are meaning these people who have this misguided notion, who are doing what you don't do in heaven. And angels looked down and felt sorry for them. The angels don't feel like, oh yeah, look at this, we got you. You thought you were going to be the rulers, but that's not really heaven, so now you're getting humiliated like you deserve. Angels love you. They feel sorry, even if the next sentence doesn't make it seem like that. The angels said, why are you sitting there like idiots and buffoons? Now, realize this is an English translation of a Latin word that Swedenborg got translated in his mind out of their spiritual conversation. I wouldn't take this too tightly as this is exactly what they said, but this is the idea. These people played a trick on you and managed to turn you from people into statues, meaning people. What's really alive is this love for the human race. What's not alive, what's stiff and wooden and like a statue, is this desire to rule, and that ruling without any purpose to it is the great joy of life. They were able to do this. Why were these people vulnerable to it? How can messed up religious concepts that have to do with having power, how does it make you vulnerable spiritually? They were able to do this because you had taken it to heart that you were going to reign with Christ. There's our keyword. Reign with Christ as kings and princes, and that angels will be ministering to you. But doesn't it say you can reign with Christ? Well, they hit you back with this different scripture. Have you forgotten what the Lord said? That in heaven, those who want to be great must be servants. Heaven is a state of mind, remember. So something about the state of mind in heaven is if what you want is to be better than people, that's dangerous. Then we can't put you in charge of people. Because if you have that desire, you're not going to be serving the greater good, and it's going to corrupt you. Because if what you want is power, and then you get it, all the worst tendencies rush into it. That's why. Not even because, remember, angels feel sorry for these people. They love them. So even there, why would you, okay, whoever wants to be the greatest has to be the servant. Is that just because that will really humiliate those people? They'll really have their desires thwarted because now they got to be the servant. No, it's protecting you. This love of dominion is the expression of love of self, which is the main enemy of the human race. You don't want to have that. So, as a protection, for you, you can't come into any kind of position of importance in the kingdom of heaven because it'll corrupt you. But then for all of us, how does it feel having somebody in power, and there may be some people in power you feel like are this way in all kinds, at your job, in government, in corporations, in wherever, your friend who they have some power and you feel like they're not using it to make life better for everybody. They're using it just to go on a power trip. How's that feel? Is that any good? That's a misuse of the point of having people as point people in positions of authority or where they can get things done. It's got to be about the whole. You need to learn. So how can we correct these people's mindset? This whole paragraph is about these people who have this messed up idea that religion somehow is about reigning over people. So how do we correct this mindset? Well, you need to learn what kings and princes mean and what, and this is our keyword, what reigning with Christ means. What is God getting at here? They mean, meaning the aggregate of these terms here, they mean becoming wise. Wow. That's at first sounds completely unrelated. Becoming wise. Because what does that have to do with ruling? But if you think of this circle, I was almost going to draw ahead, but then I said, forget it, as the human mind. Don't you have this whole mishmash of ideas in here? There are so many different concepts and so many different desires as well in here. There's all this stuff in here. However, certain concepts rule. Certain desires rule. They're what organize everything else. If it's a negative desire, even the good things we learn, if you just want to go on a power trip, then even the stuff you learn is just used as a means to manipulate people. But if the love is good, it organizes everything. So what they're talking about, what God is always talking about, stuff that applies inside as well as outside, because what's inside, the thoughts and feelings are really what drive everything else. What reigning in this sense is having the right things in your mind reigning, having your priorities right, having the truth guide you and love guide you rather than ego and falsity. That is reigning in there. So that's the becoming wise part. Man, is that more ethically satisfying. And performing a useful function. Christ's kingdom, which is heaven. So this is just another term here for heaven, is a kingdom of useful functions. So what makes heaven heaven? What are the ingredient lists on there? It is useful functions. Like what makes this amazing place, both in the world of the spiritual world, where you can, Swedenborg goes and visits it, people who have spiritual experiences go and visit it and they see these amazing things and it's perfect there and everybody's happy and doing this awesome stuff. And the state of mind we can try to get to where you are no longer crushed by all the negative things in you, where you trust people, where you love people, where you feel purpose and where you feel peace. Those are both united by the same thing, which is that you're doing something helpful for people. That is heavenly happiness, because that is what God's heart is to do useful things to people. So, and oh man, I forgot how good this stuff is in here. This is high quality concepts coming up right here. The Lord loves everyone. Hey, that's cool. It's worth noting. I won't even highlight it, but you got to have that to have everything else. And wants us all to have what is good. And this is fascinating. So God wants us to have what is good. What is good is being useful. It might just sound like a philosophical sentence that means nothing, but wait a second. Wait a second here. What is good is being useful. When you think of saying, I want you to have what's good, you're usually thinking things that you enjoy getting. This would be things that make your life go in a better direction, things that set you up for the future, things that are healthy, right? That's what's good. And here, being useful is not, I don't know if this flip matters to you, but here, let me explain it. You could read what is good is being useful as, hey, I'm God and I'm saying you need to be useful to look good to me, so I'm going to tell you have to do it. But no, what is good, what benefits a human life the most, the best thing that leads to the most happiness is being useful. So to get you, if I want to try to set your life up as best as I can, I need to get you doing useful things because that is heaven. So I'm going to try to get you being useful for your sake, not just for the sake of the people that you help. Because the Lord does good and useful things indirectly. Sorry, I'm just like, wow, there's a lot. Useful things indirectly here through angels and in the world through people, which we just were freaking out about this in a previous episode, which that indirectly God, because useful service is so important to the happiness that God wants to give us, you actually have God doing the good he wants to do to all of us through us. He says through angels in heaven and then through us. You ever notice how good things only happen when people get around and do them? Even though God is inspiring that motion, it's through us, right? That's how we're doing it. He gives those who are performing useful functions a love for being useful. This is the gift that may not have been on your Christmas list, but a love for being useful is the most precious possession you can get. And just think about it. You don't need me to tell you that. Think of all the things that are helpful that we need to do. Your occupation, doing the dishes, getting projects done, listening to people. You know what they are. Sometimes those things feel like a chore and we just want to go and get our adrenaline rush or our dopamine hit in some other way. Think if that stuff was your favorite stuff. There's unlimited supply of that stuff. And when you do some of it, when you go and you fix that thing that's been broken for a long time, suddenly that has a compounding effect of your house feels better, then your mind feels better. And to have that be your favorite thing, what could be better? How would you not want to trade anything for a love of being useful, meaning that's the stuff that hypes me up. That's the stuff I want to go do. What better thing can you unwrap than that, right? And also a reward for being useful, which is inner bliss, and this inner bliss is eternal happiness. That's what God is interested in giving us. This is what it is to reign with Christ. Okay? That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about, I'm going to have you in a position of power. I'm going to have you happy. Which would you rather be? And not just happy, but happy because you are helping. The joy of reducing the suffering of people and leading them into goodness as we gain a taste for it, that's it. Nothing else is even close, because that is beautiful on the inside and the outside. You can certainly have a feeling of joy in something that you know is not actually good and you know is making other people less happy than they would be. But to have something that's clean all the way through, it's the only thing that makes sense to have joy in, and that's the only thing that can grow forever because you don't get tired of that. And the more you learn about it, the more you like it. Some stuff we have to like, okay, I don't want to know. Isn't that what they say, how they make the sausage? But with this useful stuff, you do want to know, because the more you know about your impact, the more glad you are to be participating in this beautiful system. I filled up these margins, otherwise I would have drawn something on that. Now let's take a pivot, because we're all here, kumbaya, lovey-dovey, but does that mean there's no hierarchy at all in heaven? There sort of is, but is there a good reason for it? Okay, so here's where we get to our top positions in heaven. This is angels still talking. As there is on earth, In heaven as well, there is great power and tremendous wealth. Heaven is not just some airy-fairy. There's actually, this will have to suffice, civilization there. There are still people working together. And as you go through the levels of heaven, down in the lowest heaven, it's not that different from a really good situation on earth. People still have to navigate each other and organize a society well. God is flowing through people, but still, remember, it's the means. God always does it through means. So there is wealth and there is power. And how are they distributed? Swedenborg makes the fascinating claim that there are governments and governmental responsibilities. That there is just like you see this everywhere in the body. Isn't the brain calling a lot of shots? Isn't there a structure? And if there wasn't, if it was just every cell, whatever you want to do, just go do it. How long would we be a body? So, okay, there are positions and therefore there are positions of greater and lesser power and status, which is fascinating. You would think, oh, there's you don't get like a better parking spot if you're doing something in heaven. Why would there be? There's got to be some kind of love reason, because if we just spent this whole last paragraph drawing these amazing pictures and talking about how what God's real goal is in ruling is to get you away from the love of ruling and to do what's useful and gain that eternal happiness, if that's what these people in the beginning were trying to get pulled away from, how are you going to go and say that there's something like status in heaven? Those who occupy the top positions have courts and palaces that are of greater magnificence and splendor than the courts and palaces of emperors and monarchs on earth. I would say, remember, 18th century. So I don't know if I would very much doubt they're still doing monarchy kind of stuff in heaven. It's probably something that's 20 or 40 years ahead of what we do on earth, right? Changing, of course, as you go up and down in the heavens. But he's saying that, hey, it's not like everybody has the exact same situation. Because of the sheer number of courtiers, ministers, and attendants, and the finery they all wear, these leaders are surrounded with honor and glory. Okay, so where's this all going? The people who occupy these top positions, though, how do you get there? Is it who you know? Is it where you're born? Are selected from among those whose hearts are devoted to the well-being of all. So that's one component. What do you got to do to qualify to be in an important position in heaven? Okay, first one, hearts are devoted to the well-being of all. And second, are not affected beyond their bodily senses by the grandeur and magnificence that surrounds them that surrounds them. We'll do this in a second. I know you already read it, but we've got to talk about that separately. So the second qualification is that it doesn't go to your head. If we're we need somebody to occupy a decision-making executive position in this society because we need the right calls made for the good of the whole. If you are somehow, I don't know who selects it, God through people somehow, though people are selected by whatever councils or whatever they have, here's the qualifications. It's not how many TAC ads do you run against other people. It's not how many industry connections do you already have. One is your heart has to be devoted. I'm sure there's competence, but within this, your heart has to be devoted to the well-being of all. Like that you care more about the well-being of all than being the leader. Right? And who are not affected beyond their bodily senses by the grandeur and magnificence. So you notice that, oh, wow, this is whatever. We are operating out of some, befitting surroundings, but it doesn't make me think I'm any better than anybody else. That's the qualification. So why even have those conditions in the first place that surrounds them in order to establish authority? And you might think, authority is the antithesis of heaven. But let me say what I think he means by that. First of all, heaven is in different levels, right? The third heaven is where everybody really just deeply loves what's good and true. I doubt there's the same kind of setup there. I think there it's more, Swedenborg talks about it more just like tent by tent, the idyllic initial situation of the human race. As you move down, though, There's people with more negative stuff still clinging to them. It's a little harder to work things out. The natural heaven, yeah, like I was saying, a little bit close to what we've got here on earth. And that there is something in moving people's hearts and minds to say, like, okay, you look the part. I will listen to what you say. In part, because I understand, but in part is like, yeah, we honor this role because we're setting you up to guide something. And so there is this, somehow this is being used as a tool to get it so that if someone's heart has the well-being of all and they're not affected by being important, that means God has got a pretty clear channel through them to do the good to the rest of heaven that he wants to do. That there you're getting this direct line in so that God can give everybody the blessings that he wants. Because, and we'll just finish with this, because it is crucial to the well-being of all that each person has some function in the community, and the community is in effect a body of the whole, and because all usefulness comes from the Lord and is carried out through the agency of angels and people as if they were acting on their own, clearly this is what it means to reign with the Lord. So it's crucial to the well-being of all. So we're thinking about what's the best for everyone by looking at what's the best for the individual. And the best thing for the individual is to be contributing to a greater cause. So that's the setup, and that's the news from heaven. You have questions. Maybe there's something I'm feeling like, this part makes sense, but this still rubs me the wrong way. Or, I never thought about it like that. Or my favorite, this gives me an idea. That when I'm in here and I'm dealing with my negative clouds and they're trying to talk to me about the need to have life a certain way or exercise whatever kind of power, that I realize, what the ultimate power is reigning with God, is to love service. That I'm not even focused on myself, I'm focused on the good that I can do. And I see whatever life situation God puts me in now, whether I feel like I'm moving on up or moving on down or moving on sideways, that the most important thing, the eternal happiness, is in loving the service of others. That's what I'm focused on. So that even if I got raised way up, I wouldn't think I was better. Swedenborg has this awesome passage where it's like, people who are devoted to divine providence, if they're brought to positions of power, don't consider themselves better than other people. And if they're brought to lowly positions, don't consider themselves worse than other people. That instead trust that God is trying to bring us all into this happy configuration. So hopefully, in some ways, with regard to your external life or your internal, that equips you. Does it? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Hope that you guys are enjoying the program, and hope that somehow this goes out with you as we look at how can we, in my own life, since we all are reigning in our own little hearts and minds, how can we reign well there? How can we make it so the best intentions and best concepts are the ones we look to and follow? How can we set up this sort of macro picture in us, and through that lead to this heaven for us, but for the people we interact with too? Doesn't sound so bad, does it? Thanks again. See you soon.